All right, we are here on the Phil Barrett Show. Welcome. We're very happy to be here at an undisclosed location in Saratoga County. It's a beautiful day out there, and I have a very special guest with me today, and that is Mr. J. Thompson. He doesn't need any fanfare. He does, when he's in the Two Guys and a Mic podcast studio, he doesn't need to be introduced, needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway. How you doing, Jay?
Well, that was quite the introduction in itself. Thank you there, Phil. This is a different role here. I'm the interviewee, not the interviewer, so
Yeah.
This is pretty cool. I'm doing well, thanks. I'm doing really well.
Good. Well, I thought this would be a good way. I'd love to have you as a guest, as I told you. For those that don't know Jay, he has a very large heart. And I thought it would be important to go through just some of the things that he's done recently for Americans in need in Western North Carolina. Now, for those that follow the podcast on a regular basis, Jay had the Sharps family on the show, their family in Clifton Park. We've been working with them in Clifton Park to do...
Amazing people.
Yeah, they really are.
Amazing people.
Mike is currently in the military. Both he and his wife served in the military, and we partnered with them in Clifton Park to do some drives at the Clifton Common for non-perishable food items and a myriad of other things that people in Western North Carolina need after the terrible storm. And so having them on the show, I think, helped with getting the word out that people had this opportunity. And as I said that day, people in Clifton Park and in neighboring communities are always so giving. They want to help. And if you give them the vehicle and the opportunity to help, they will come out in droves. And that's exactly what happened. Jay had the idea that, well, why don't we do a drive here at his property? And through that, so many of you came out and donated, and you did an all-day podcast that day.
Yeah, that was something in itself.
Yeah, that was...
Thank you for your help.
That was something for the record books, especially the Connors.
Jeremy.
Especially his time.
Quite a few people came out and helped out, jumped in behind a microphone. And
I don't know that Connors helped, though. Was it a help?
Listen, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he tried his best. But, it is what it is. It's like having a child running around.
All right, good. Well, I hope he watches this version because it wouldn't be any fun if he didn't actually see us busting his chops. But in all seriousness, people were in and out of here constantly dropping off items, and you and your employees here collecting those items throughout the day. And then you collected many, many boxes, huge boxes of various things.
So what we did is to make transport easy, we use what's called a Gaylord. It's an industry standard term. It's basically a box that is 38 inches wide by 42 inches deep by 48 inches tall. Basically, it's a pallet-sized box. And whenever donations came in, whether it be food, blankets, clothing, PPE, personal protective equipment, hygiene products, toiletries, they all went in their separate bin. And we ended up collecting 9 Gaylords of material, almost 6,000 pounds of stuff.
Wow, that's tremendous.
Because we did weigh it, and we also collected 8 and a half pallets of water.
Wow.
So that was pretty amazing. The generosity of people, of the Two Guys in the Mic podcast audience, as well as my friends and the people that you've mentioned it to, and Jeremy was able to marshal, was pretty amazing. The Southern Saratoga County residents and the people of the 518 really came through, to help others that they don't even know.
I give you a lot of credit because that was a tremendous amount of work. And like I said, you had your employees out here helping. Everybody just jumped in to make sure that we collected as many things as possible for the people in Western North Carolina that have lost everything.
Yeah.
Why was it important for you to embark on such a large endeavor?
Yeah. Well, I grew up from a middle class household. I'm kidding. So
Oh, did you? Oh, that's nice. Tell us about that.
my mother, I.
I met your dad.
Oh yeah, my father is
I call him Dad. Yeah, that's what,
most people do.
yeah.
Most
Yeah,
people do.
yeah.
So
He's a
what it
good
was
man,
for me
good
is
man.
I lived through Irene. Not that we had anything like that, obviously, but it was traumatic for my kids, and we were all afraid the Gilboa Dam was going to was going to break, and it was a week of tough times.
Yeah.
Obviously, pales in comparison to what happened in the Carolinas and the southern states, but that coupled with I was watching the Faulkner Focus on Fox, and there was a guy on there who maybe mid-20s, and he was on the verge of crying, and he said, I lost everything, and nobody came to help. Nobody was there, and when they showed up, it was too late. It was just too late, and it really drew me into his plight, and I turned to my wife, and I said, I got to do something.
Yeah.
I got to do something to help. This is horrible. We all knew, not to get too political about it, but, the response from our federal government wasn't great. And we took charge ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's what we do, right? That's
Yeah.
what Americans do. When we see other Americans in a terrible situation, we want to jump up and help and do
Yep.
what we can. And as usual, it's the small business owners in our country that step up, that get things done on a daily basis. And as a small business owner, you stepped up, jumped in, worked with other small businesses and many other people, and collected all of that material. Now, once it was collected, well, it's got to get to where it needs to go. At some point, you made the decision, well, once again, if you got to do it, you got to do it yourself. So how did that come about with because you had quite an excursion down there.
that was it was fun in itself. Not that you want to put any type of fun times with what we did, but
Right.
you kept hearing the news on how FEMA wasn't responding, or they were confiscating goods, or they were not allowing convoys to go through, and or stuff was going to specific locations and then was just being held in warehouse, and I really didn't want that to happen. So we ended up, I think I brought it up with you, and you said, hey, I've got this family that's down there. They're doing their own drives, and I can get you in contact with the people there. So we had them on the podcast, on Two Guys in the Mic podcast, talked to them, dealt with them. So we organized with a small group of people that were out of a Baptist church in Candler, North Carolina, and we had the event. We collected, and I decided, I should say, with my wife, that we were going to bring it down ourselves. So I loaded up my trailer with 9 of the Gaylords and 1 pallet of water, and which added about almost 9,000 pounds, 9 to 10,000 pounds of stuff.
Wow.
And then we had a company, Dagan Trucking, out of East Greenbush, take the other 8 pallets of water that we had, or 7 pallets of water that we had, and they went to Hickory, North Carolina. So we were able to help 2 municipalities, which is really cool. And then we left here at 12 o'clock on Tuesday, 12 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock noon Tuesday, and my son and I, Cameron, and we drove down right till just south of Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started seeing roadblocks and roads closed. So at that point, it was like 2:30 in the morning. I didn't want to start dealing with road closures in the middle of the night, so we spent the night. And then the next morning we got up, headed back on the road. Within 15 minutes, we hit, I think it was I-26, which is the size of I-90. It's a pretty substantial road, and it was closed, and we ended up meandering through this small town and got back on the highway right after the road closure and where the washout was. And Phil, this road, like I said, it's a 4-lane highway, two going north, 2 going south, and the washout was almost half a mile wide.
Wow.
I would say 40 to 50 feet, even more than that, deep, as wide as you could see, the whole road was just washed out, and boulders the size of trucks and trees the size of tractor trailers were strewn around like they were pebbles and twigs and toothpicks all over the place. And it was incredible to see. And we weren't even close to. We were still in Tennessee.
Right.
The road. There were convoys of dump trucks escorted by police cars going in and out of that construction area because there was, 10 feet of mud on the highway that was left, and they were trying to clear that off. It was the sheer size of devastation from the water was just incredible, and we weren't even in North Carolina yet. So we continue on, and both my son and I were awestruck at the power of nature. And then you come into Asheville. So Asheville, you have the highway, that river or creek that flood. And then you had the Arts District, which that's when you always see that was just leveled.
Right.
And it looked like nuclear winter in there. It was mud, foundations, buildings, cars turned over. It's one thing to see it with your own eyes. It's one thing to see it on TV. It's another to see it with your own eyes. Right. It was to the point where it was hard to contain your emotions because it was so devastating to see. And you're looking at, I'm thinking of my business or my house or, my kids and my pets, and all that washed away when you least expected it.
How long did it take you to actually get from here to
15 hours
to the spot where you took the break?
Oh, that was 15 hours.
And then how long did it take you to actually get to deliver this?
About an hour.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it wasn't far once we got going the next day. Remember, we also went there 3 weeks after the flooding.
Right.
So they had 3 weeks to work on stuff, and it still looked like it was fresh the next day. Wow. So we pull into the parking lot. It was a giant field because we got there just as they were moving from the Baptist church to a giant field because they were just expanding so much, and the donations were coming in, and which was amazing. So we pull in, and a guy named Dusty, met me there, and he's the contact with the Sharps.
Oh, good.
And unloaded the trucks. I set up a mobile kitchen. I started cooking breakfast for all the volunteers and whoever else came in. We made almost 100 breakfast sandwiches, 100 to 150 breakfast sandwiches, and gave water out. My son jumped in a skid steer, started unloading tractor trailers. There was a tractor trailer from Grand Rapids, Michigan, that had collected a whole bunch of donations.
So you jumped right in and became one of the rescue workers.
If we're going to be there, we're going to represent.
Right.
We're going to be good.
Wow.
So as I was cooking, my son emptied all the trucks that were there, and then he helped shuttle stuff around. And then Dustin came over and said, look, we got to shuttle some water around any way we could press your truck and trailer into service. And my son jumped in. Again, I was still busy cooking. And he started doing water shuttles back and forth with my truck and trailer.
How old's your son?
He's 19.
What an incredible experience for anybody but a 19-year-old. I mean, what a great lesson and great thing to see. And also, he's got to feel pretty good the way he jumped in and helped.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of him. And not to make light of my other son who was here for the 18 hours that we put before and after the event and loading the truck to get us on the road because he had to stay back and run the business. But both my kids really stepped up and worked hard. But specifically Cameron, because he came with me, he was able to take the time. And then when we were all done, we had brought, because we also got cash donations, we had brought 30 gallons of diesel with us, so we fueled up their equipment. So and we also gave out propane tanks. We brought propane tanks with us for heaters, and then we trekked on home after we were all done. And it was, I have to say, Phil, emotionally draining seeing that, but probably one of the more fulfilling things other than being a husband and a dad that I've done in my life.
How long were you actually there once you got to the point where you were at the church and then started pitching in with the cooking and the
We pulled up.
moving materials, moving goods. I mean, how long were you there for?
We pulled up on site at around 10 o'clock, and we left around 6:30 at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you worked straight through?
Yeah, nonstop. It was, one of the things that happened. I mean, you hear about this stuff, and it was sorry about that. It was pretty amazing. So you hear about all these people that are trapped in the mountains, and so that this pickup truck coming back around through, picking stuff up. It was a pretty good sized truck, big mud tires on it, had a big brush guard, and these guys that looked like they belonged on the set of Yellowstone. The leather, the cowboy hats, the southern drawl, and the guns on the hips and everything. And they would grab supplies that had a list, and they would take off again. So halfway through the day, they come up to my station where I'm cooking and giving out food, and he says, "Hey, do you mind if I grab a couple sandwiches?" I'm like, "Sure, absolutely." So I give him the sandwiches, and he stops. He's like, "Lord, thank you for the food and bless with it." He does this whole little prayer, and I'm like, I thought to myself, that's really cool,
Yeah.
And I said, "So what is it you're doing?" He goes, he goes, "I was in the military. I grew up here. I'm a friend of Dustin's. I now live in Texas." And he put out on his Facebook page that he needs help from his military brethren to help his community out. And we came up from Texas, and we've been here for 2 or 3 weeks, and we're delivering food up in the bush, up the mountains, and in the places that are impassable where people can't leave their homes.
Right.
And I'm like, "Wow, it's pretty incredible." He says, "Yeah, I've been doing this for the last 3 weeks, and as long as Dustin needs us, we put our life on hold to help these people out." And I thought that was pretty incredible. So I said to him, I said, "What's with the gun?" Because I mean, everybody had guns on, and he goes, "Well, unfortunately, you get off the beaten path, and it becomes pretty desperate." He goes, "And people have attacked the convoys of food and supplies, and it's not out of malice or out of meanness. It's out of desperation and despair.
Right.
But luckily, nothing doesn't get more than a couple shouting matches, and people's senses come back. And so there is still a lot to do up there."
Did you get a sense of some of the emotion from the people that were there and have lived this for 3 weeks before you got there?
So this car pulls in, one of the many cars pulls in, but I actually got to interact with the lady. She gets out, and she says, are you cooking food?" I'm like, "Yeah. What would you like? I'll cook you anything you want." I said, "Unfortunately, I brought things to make good old Northeastern breakfast sandwiches." But she goes, "Could I have one?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And I had just got done making it. It was cold. It was like 50 degrees that day. So I gave it to her, and she's like holding it. She goes, "Oh, I haven't had anything warm to eat in 3 days."
Wow.
I was like, "Oh my God!" And she's like crying. I'm like, "Is it only you?" She goes, "No, my daughter and her 2 grandkids are in the car." And I said, "Well, let me make food for them." And she was in tears. I mean,
Wow.
here I was, my life isn't affected other than the fact that I wanted to go down and help, but this
Right.
was like I was giving her $1 million, and yet it was 4 breakfast sandwiches, And I said, "Do you not have power at your house?" She goes, "The power is very sporadic. It goes in and out." She says, "And our propane tanks floated away. No propane, so no heat, and our gas, propane tanks." And she said, "And our well's contaminated, so we have no running water." And I said, "Well, let me make you some food so you can take a tray." I had a chafing dish. I made a whole bunch of eggs and some sausage and buttered some hard rolls. I said, "Here, take this with you, and at least have another warm meal later." And she was in tears and couldn't believe the generosity of the people around that were giving her food and blankets and water and warm meals. And it's funny. Not that, again, I don't want to be political, but everybody that was there was Christian, and they were all God-loving people. And they were proud of it, and they said it, and they showed it. It was pretty amazing, I have to say. And the volunteers were from everywhere, from Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Ohio, Michigan, and they were all there helping. And we'd pull into a rest stop, fueling up, and I'd pass somebody with an empty trailer, and they'd say to me, "You heading down to North Carolina?" "I am." He goes, "God bless. We're doing God's work here," and I'm thinking nothing of it, but we're helping people, and I'm sure they've seen a lot more than I've seen, But yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about with the Sharps family that people really need was winter clothing.
Yeah, it's getting cold.
You go back a few weeks ago weather was just starting to turn, and it was getting cold at night, and that was a very important part of it. Had you heard of any stories where people were in that type of situation where they were, didn't have winter clothes and just were in very tough shape?
So I met a couple of representatives from the Cajun Navy. That was pretty cool.
Oh, they were there?
A bunch of nice guys.
Yeah,
And they were they stopped by and grabbed a couple propane tanks, and they were bringing it up to a lady that half her house was swept away. She was in her 70s and refused to leave her home. So they boarded up part of her house with tarps. Obviously, building materials are at a premium. And they were going to set up a space heater with propane that the 518 donated.
Nice.
To set her up for a couple of nights at nighttime because it was getting cold. I mean, it was getting down to 32 degrees in the mountains at nighttime. We think North Carolina, but North Carolina in the elevations, it's no different than here.
Well, I think the Sharps mentioned that it was cooler than normal.
Yeah.
Too, which did not help the situation. Obviously.
Yeah, but I heard that was one of the anecdotal stories, and it was, and I'm sure there's plenty of them to make them true, but. It was, so when you look at Asheville, it was like the tale of two cities. It was really strange. So it's a beautiful city for starters because we actually, like I said, drove through it a little bit. And the part by the river is like 4 or 5 blocks deep, and it was like washed away. It was, like I said, like a nuclear winter. It was horrible. It looked devastating. The devastation was unfathomable, and that was just Asheville. And there are places like Chimney Rock and Bear Cave, Bat Cave, and whatnot. They're even worse. They're just gone. But 1 block further than that is the normal city and the hustle and bustle of a city. But they have limited power, no internet, and limited water. And the kicker is. You think, oh, what's so bad about that? Considering not being able to use a credit card, a debit card, or access to your money in the bank because the internet's not there. Suddenly, everybody's putting transactions on paper and hope that you come back and pay for what you purchased, or making a manual credit card slip and hopefully that's still good by the time the bank opens up. So it's like you really realize sometimes how we especially in the times like that where you really rely on technology. And sometimes maybe cash in your pocket is probably the best way to go.
Well, I think it shows we take a lot of things for granted on a daily basis, and as soon as they're not there, it's a big disruption, and it's something that affects everybody. We're here on the Phil Barrett Show, here in the Two Guys and a Mic podcast. My guest today is Jay Thompson. Jay is telling us about the incredible job that he did to collect items here at his business for the people in Western North Carolina that lost everything, and also talking about his trip because he brought everything down to the place it needed to be. And I really wanted Jay to tell this story because just incredible reflections on not only the devastation that people experienced there, but the incredible generosity, hard work, and support of so many people from here, represented by Jay, representing Saratoga County, and people throughout the country that came together to help their fellow Americans. As you started to get to the point where you had to leave, I mean, you've got a family, you've got a business that you need to get back to. When you got in the truck and were pulling away, what was your first thought?
I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
So we got there on Wednesday, and they were still setting up, and they were starting Friday morning to accept people to come in and do collections, And I wanted to stay so bad. If my son didn't have to get back for work and I didn't have payroll to do at my shop and everything else, I would have definitely stayed to help out longer. As a matter of fact, the whole way home, I kept getting texts from some of the other volunteers that were still there and couldn't say enough appreciation of what my son did and what we did, and couldn't believe that we drove down for made food for them. And I have to say, Phil, if anybody feels so inclined and they want to go and do this, this is going to be a long, protracted effort. These aren't things that are going to be built and repaired in a day or a week or a month. This is going to take a long time. And if you want to go and help and want to go down there and volunteer, they will 100% take your help. Where we were in Candler, there was enough work for 200 people, and there was only 40 volunteers.
Wow.
So they need all the help they can get. So if everybody is interested, I can get in touch with Phil, and we can give you the information where you could get in touch with the guy that's in charge, and you can go volunteer, help load cars, or sort out what comes in. It's very fulfilling and very rewarding to do something like that, because the people are so appreciative of what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that whole feeling that I think that you expressed in the beginning, where you were cooking breakfast for the family, and just the feeling that they were all alone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be the overarching theme here, and feeling that somebody has after you lose everything and you don't have any of the comforts of home that you're used to, and suddenly you feel alone. What do you do?
Yeah,
right?
and
the
then
fact that
strangers show up.
Yeah, the fact that
strangers show up.
so many other strangers showed up, some from very far away like you, it's got to be heartwarming and just mean a lot.
Yeah, it was. I found it more rewarding than they probably realized, that I was doing good for them. It was better for me than it was for them, I think.
Yeah.
I believe that anyways.
Well, and the other thing I've been saying all along is it's not just giving people the opportunity to, giving them the vehicle, the opportunity to donate and do things. It's, yes, you're giving of yourself, but it's a gift back to you. And I think this is a similar situation, where you were down there and put yourself out in a big way to help people, which is incredibly giving of you, but you really got a gift back.
Absolutely, and that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed. I hate to use the word enjoy, because
Right. No, I know what you mean.
Obviously,
Yeah.
the circumstances wasn't joyful, but I very much enjoyed what I got out of that.
When you're doing something meaningful,
There is
as
enjoyment.
hard as it might be, there's definitely enjoyment in it, especially when you're helping others.
Yeah, the whole part of it, from coming up with the idea to the what were we on, 8 hours podcasting almost?
Yeah,
Streaming?
I was only here a short time, but yeah, I think you
listen,
were on all day.
Don't cut yourself off.
think you were here all day.
You were here quite a while. You helped out a lot. So from the whole podcasting part of it, getting set up for that, which was time consuming because we did a remote location, to collecting, to taking. I mean, I must have gone to every single store around, buying supplies and filling the needs as the Sharps told us they needed more different things, to loading, to driving it, to doing our deed down there and coming back. Every aspect of it was amazing.
Yeah.
To think that, and I hope anybody who's listening, if the only thing you take out of it is, I wish I could have thought of that, you can still do that.
Yeah.
And do it, because it was so great.
They needed help quickly. They needed help in a timely manner to get them through the roughest patch. And although, as you said, this whole situation's going to go on for a long time.
Yeah,
it's a
long
long recovery for a lot of people. Getting that initial help in the first few weeks, I'm sure, made all the difference to many people, and got them through another day or two. That's a great gift.
Yeah, the Sharps are continuously doing events, right? They're still doing more, are they?
No, we haven't scheduled any more
at
this time, but I think he's been driving back and forth as well, so he's certainly had his hands full. And between all the collection points he had, getting everything down there, but have put it out there to him. If you want to have more collection points, we'll set that up.
Yeah. Actually, I got to have you grab something because somebody dropped something off today.
Oh,
So
great.
you can drop it.
Yeah, I'm still getting donations at my office.
Yeah. People want to help.
I called Mike the other day, and I said, somebody just dropped off several grocery bags at my office. I need to get these to you. So you can still donate, even though we don't have set times right now. We had 3 on the Clifton Common, and we don't have any more scheduled right now. However, If you would like to donate, you can certainly do that by dropping off items at my office at Town Hall, 1 Town Hall Plaza, Clifton Park. I'm on the corner of Clifton Park Center Road and Fisher Ferry Road. And I'll make sure those items get to the Sharps family. And as I said, they've been getting them to the place where it needs to go.
Yep.
So some of the items that would be useful: non-perishable food items, first aid kits, winter clothes is a big one.
Jackets and blankets.
Yeah.
Socks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only going to get colder, just like it's going to get colder here. So we need winter clothes. We need gloves, mittens. A big one was not only first aid kits but medicines that you can buy over the counter, Motrin, Advil, something like that. That's a big one. Anything that you can think of that would help you in a time of need when you've lost everything.
So as of right now, the Pole Creek Church, the big things are baby formula.
That's the Polk?
Pole Creek Baptist Church, which is what the ones that I went and did.
And what town is it in?
This is in the Candler
Okay.
Donation spot. Is baby formula, diapers, distilled water, baby lotions, baby wipes, electrolytes, adult diapers, propane tanks, hand warmers, mobile CO2 detectors, because you don't think of that because people are now having propane heaters in their house that aren't supposed to, or maybe not know how to work it too well. The CO2 detectors, Mylar blankets, dehumidifiers, walkers for the elderly, medical triage equipment. I mean, these are all crazy things, but you don't think about it. They no longer water. They're good, they said, but dry goods, batteries, blankets, socks, beanies, mini propane tanks, porta potties, charcoal, because everybody's got to filter their water.
Right.
Charcoal packs, poison packs, and chemical packs, buckets with lids, Vaseline, laundry detergents, and chapstick. So that's those are the need as of last week.
And that gives you an idea of some of the things
and volunteers
that
you
can donate. Yeah. So if any of those items you have or you're willing to purchase and you'd like to donate to the folks in Western North Carolina, you can drop those off in my office at Clifton Park Town Hall, and we'll make sure they get to the place where they need to be. But is any other reflections, lessons, or anything that you were able to pull from this experience on a personal level? I think you've given us a real good overview of what you did, what you saw, and how you felt about it. But is there any one last lesson or thing that you pulled from this that maybe you haven't mentioned yet?
For me, the big thing I learned, two things. One, a preparedness plan for your own family is a big one. I think the people who are more prepared, a bug out kit, safety stuff to have and to be prepared for disasters are a big one. And watching my boys step up.
Yeah, that's cool.
And really teaching them to help and be benevolent with their time to others in needs, I think, are my two biggest takeaways, where I can look back and say, okay, at least I did that right in life.
Yeah.
But as far as going down to the Carolinas, other than an emotional feeling of resilience for those people, and just can't believe that our government's lack of response. And without getting any further into that, I pretty much said everything I want to share, because I don't want to toot my own horn, because that's not about me, it's about them.
Well, no, but you're not. That's why I asked you to be on here, because I think it's important that people know, have an idea of the local folks that are working hard. That's why we had the Sharps on the program not long ago to talk about what they're doing, because all of this is a reminder. I'm basically using you as a reminder for what
Are you
people
using
can
me,
do.
Phil?
I'm using you.
Oh,
I'm
I
using
knew
you.
it.
I
Damn it! I knew this.
as Matt McLaughlin and I were just talking about this. If you're upfront, you're honest, things are a lot easier than if you're not. So, I'm just, but no, in all seriousness, it's a great reminder. And I think when people hear directly from somebody who's been there, somebody who took the time to go down there and help and can reflect on exactly what they saw, not something you saw on TV, I think it brings it home a little more to folks.
Okay, I will.
It might get them to donate something, or at least remind them that we're still taking donations.
I will say this: what the media showed is as bad as it looked,
Yeah.
and the things that those people are going through is as bad as they say it is.
Yeah.
That is the one thing. There was no sensationalizing.
So they're not
it.
overplaying it.
No,
No,
it was bad. Even my son, who's 19, who kids don't seem to be affected by much these days, was as we're driving, kept saying, "Wow, Dad, this is horrible."
Must have
Wow,
been
Dad,
an
this is
incredible
horrible.
dad-son experience too.
As much as you can with a 19-year-old. Yeah. At one point, he says to me as he's running a skid steer for 3 hours, and he goes, "This is anticlimactic, Dad." I'm like, sometimes doing the Lord's work isn't always fun.
Well, I bet he
So-
looks back and he's damn proud of himself, and it'll stay with him forever.
I hope
I
so.
think that's clear.
I hope so, because I'm pretty proud of him.
Yeah, you should be.
Pretty proud of both of them, actually. So.
Well, we're proud of you. Thank you, Jay, very much for everything you did. And I know you wouldn't talk about it on your own show. So I thought, again, as a reminder to everybody out there, there's people in need. They need help. And people like Jay are all over the country pitching in. And I want to thank everybody who donated. I mean, the outpouring of donations on the Common those 3 days that we held the collection efforts was just unbelievable.
I do want to mention a couple of businesses.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
really, I think, went above and beyond. Don and Paul's Coffee Shop in Waterford. They came out and they paid for all the food. Actually, they donated all the food for me to cook down there, which I thought was cool.
Wow.
Adirondack
Who's
Basement.
that again?
Don and Paul's Coffee Shop. in
Don and
Waterford.
Paul's Coffee Shop. Best coffee in Waterford.
It's a good place for breakfast.
There you go.
Adirondack Basement Solutions was very generous with time and a nice donation. New Country Toyota donated a bunch of water.
Mike Rouchy?
Mike Rouchy.
Yep, good man.
We had, obviously, I'm going to shout out my own company, JGS Recycling, because we
There
did
you
quite a
go.
bit of stuff. I also wanted to there was a bunch of people, everybody from Waterford that knows me, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for really coming out to this event, because it was near and dear for me, and you guys all did that for me. So that's a big shout out to you guys. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you all. And thank you, Jay and Cameron and everybody else who just did an incredible job in a very difficult time for many people. And again, if you do want to donate items, please drop them off at my office, second floor of Town Hall, One Town Hall Plaza, town of Clifton Park. And we'd love to take your donations and get them to the place they need to be. So with that, we're going to close out another edition of the Phil Barrett Show here at the Two Guys and a Mic podcast in an undisclosed location in Saratoga County. It is indeed a pleasure to begin this podcast in a big way, I believe. Not only did we recently speak to an elected official in the town of Malta who's up for re-election in less than 2 weeks, Matt McLaughlin, who is doing a tremendous job as a town board member. I also want to mention his website, electmattmclaughlin.com. McLaughlin is spelled McLoughlin. Electmattmclaughlin.com. You can send him questions. He will answer them, and you can find out more information about Matt and his platform and what he's been doing for the town of Malta and what he plans to do in the future. So with that, Jay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. God bless you, and thank you for everything that that you did in this endeavor. With that, we'll bid adieu, and we will be back with terrific guests very soon.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Have you been saying that?
No.
No, you stopped.
My son has.
You stopped? All right.
My son
good.
has.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
man.
It's spreading. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
It's spreading. Thank you. God bless.
God bless.
We were great, we were free, had a country that couldn't be beat. We were right till the left set our country up to burn.
Yeah, it was good.
I didn't press it hard enough the first time.